This podcast is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and is a production of VI Alliance, copyright 2019. And this chart-busting hit, Alone Leave Me, courtesy of New Threads, is available everywhere.
Hi, this is Susan, and I'm here with Julie, and we're going to talk about something that she has no idea what I'm bringing in, but it's something that I've been thinking about, and it has been somehow bothering me because it keeps coming at me. And what I was going to talk about is the energy of the Game of Thrones. And you know, the reason I bring it up is because we've done a few podcasts in our Oprah versus Donald series. We've done some stuff in energy, and I don't even know if we discussed any of this in our Ancient Texts podcast, but I started thinking about this and it keeps coming at me. And so we've done podcasts in the past about the Me Too movement. We talked about the Kavanaugh hearings. We talk about women's issues and women empowerment and the fact that we are not really helping ourselves when we do these, you know, big protests. We really are not helping. I don't know of anybody who's moved ahead. And I started saying, okay, so we talked about 50 Shades of Grey. That was going on, I think, during the Me Too movement. That was the big movie at the time. And then we had the Kavanaugh hearings, and everyone, you know, said we're going to fight this. And, well, he got appointed. And then the Game of Thrones came out. And the Game of Thrones is the most unempowering, the most objectifying movie towards women. And I haven't seen it, and I know we talked a little bit about this before. And part of me wants to see this movie just to see what the lore is. I caught a little bit of it at one point, and I just had no interest. The things that I heard, I was just flabbergasted. I could not believe the things that they were saying. And we've talked about this in the past, and I thought, okay, what can I say that would be different? Because I don't know if this is falling on deaf ears. And then I thought to myself, I looked up on my phone the cast of characters who played them. And I got to tell you, the guys are all really handsome guys. I know they dress them up and, you know, they make them look like Vikings or anything. But a majority of the guys are good-looking guys. You know, and the idea of some guy coming and whisking you away and wanting to, you know, bed you and do all these things. You look at the cute guy and it's like, well, you know, I can kind of watch this. It's not so bad. And I thought, what if we had a Game of Thrones remake and we put people like Harvey Weinstein is like one of the leaders? I was going to look up like all the most disgusting men you can find. Can you imagine if he were the lead? You know, he were one of the lead. Who would watch it? I mean, these disgusting men that have done these atrocious things. Kavanaugh, if he was one of the guys, would you want to watch that happen? See someone like Harvey Weinstein come over and boom, come on, you're going to throw you on the bed and you're going to do what I want. You'd be like, this is disgusting. And I thought about it. I was like, you know, I was looking at some of these disgusting men that have done these atrocious things, and I said, someone should recast the Game of Thrones and put in these disgusting guys, and then let's see what happens, and then watch the movie, and then I almost feel like people would see what I see, and the energy behind that would be so different. And it's like, why are we not casting these men that do these atrocious things as the horrible, ugly characters that they are? We have these really good-looking guys playing these roles.
So you brought up a lot of interesting points, and I was laughing earlier because I had no idea what the topic was. And so when I hear what the topic is and what you're talking about, you know, a lot of things come into play, and it's funny because you're really going into the reality of it, and I just go into how our feelings are, you know, it's desensitizing to violence, and how our feelings and our adrenals are being pushed, and how there's certain things that people like. You get into a certain genre, and it becomes not even about, I mean, if you really look and you say, do you know what that's really about? It's like, huh? And again, you know, it's funny to have this conversation because I haven't seen it. I'm not interested in seeing it. Yet when I see anything that has a number of seasons, that has a following, that has anything, my curiosity goes to, for example, example, it goes to like the Harry Potter series. Like my curiosity, I read the books. I wanted to know what it was about. I wanted to know what interested people. I wanted to know what the story was about. And then I went into, okay, how's J.K. Rowling doing this? What's occurring? Even the Twilight movies. I mean, am I interested in vampires? No. It was, are you team Edward or are you team, I'm going to go and make a real leap? It's kind of like, cheering for a sports team. And so you get into the energy and the vibration of everybody being excited about it. And if people are talking about Game of Thrones, I mean, people, like I mentioned in one of the podcasts, someone who was a friend of mine who you would never think, and not that I think anything one way or the other, but she even said herself she was amazed she watched it because she just wanted to see what people's interest was. So a lot of people, I think, are watching for different reasons, yet you bring up a valid point, because are they really drilling down to the specifics? Okay.
But I'm going even one step further, because we talk about energy. And I'm looking at the timing of it as well. And I think about, as women, we're trying, we're really trying to move out of this, role of being just pure supporter and kind of moving into who we are. And we do know that women are still powerful. I mean, is it a man's world? Sure. I can't go in and give you statistics, but from what I hear, yes. But there are powerful women out there. Why aren't these powerful women coming? Why don't they make a movie and empower a woman to see things different? You have this, again, I'm going to keep throwing Harvey Weinstein. Have him be the guy that's out there and, man, strong, bang, hit woman. Why, we have these handsome men, really good looking. Why don't we have that role being depicted by these men that are doing it, and women can see it instead of being tugged at the romance and actually see it for what it is. And reason I say it is because I look at the timing of it. We sit here, and is that men putting, I guess I could look it up and get the details as to who wrote it and who's producing it and directing it, but it's like, if these are women, my question is, what the hell are we doing? It makes no sense to me. And I think that's why it keeps hitting me, upside the head. It's like something's off here. Why does that keep occurring?
I think there's real evidence of, aspects of the Kabbalion here, because, when you talk about, here's this full-fledged, forcible movement of Me Too, and then there you have the Game of Thrones. You have two opposite sides. And the expression of people understanding, a middle way where there isn't that violence against women and who's supporting what. I think there's a real fallacy when it comes to society and what's engaged in. And you're bringing up a lot of things, and I think there's so many different levels and degrees of energy variations in there that it's a hard thing just to pinpoint one thing and say, yeah, it shouldn't be that way, and it would be better to have a more powerful expression. And there have been really powerful expressions of female heroes, of female characters. Wonder Woman was out there. They did a remake, and they had a really cool movie with Wonder Woman in it. They had, I know you don't know about this either, but the whole Xena series was a huge, powerful woman who was actually not a great character to start with, and then, kind of turned around and made herself better and worked for a better angle of things, and as a woman. And it's funny that you say that, because it made me think of a lot of the different shows and episodes where there were these men that were ugly, that were nasty to women, and she went in there and was able to help them against the ugly man.
So with that said, I just did look up, and the majority is men producers. Was created by a man, another book. It was based on a book by a guy. And this isn't about male bashing, because I look at it as there were women involved in it, and there were women actresses. And there are a lot of women out there looking to, why are we not creating roles and shows that empower women? It's funny, because it's, the old stereotype of a woman who goes far in life in terms of a career had to kind of de-womanize herself to a degree and become a man and work in the man's world. And I know a lot of that has changed. There are a lot of powerful women out there, yet I hear that, and then I wonder, why are we still showing what we're showing? And why are we still supporting the role of a woman being completely submissive to the point of, grossly, destroying who she is and being nothing more than an object.
Right.
And I don't understand that. And again, especially in this time when we're out there supposedly fighting for women to be, equal rights, equal pay.
So there was something that occurred over the weekend. Aladdin came out, and, I saw the Aladdin with Robin Williams, and he was amazing in it. And so I'm from kind of that genre and that background, and Will Smith is playing Aladdin, and a lot of people dissed it before it even came out, and then people went to see it, and the question was, why did they go to see it? And it was, again, I'm going to go down the angle. I know you're talking about energy, yet there's so many things in society that are controlling, what has the advertising, what gets out there, who's in it, who's performing, what the conversations are, what news you're seeing, what you're not seeing. People went to see it, and they turned around and said, oh my gosh, it was an amazing movie. And so now word of mouth is trending that it's an amazing movie, you have to go see it. Who knows if it's true or not? I haven't seen it. Will Smith is a great actor, a character actor. Who knows if it's true or not? Robin Williams was great. Yet, the reason why I brought this up, and I was looking on my phone because there was another movie that came out called Booksmart about high school people. It was like mostly women. It was written by a woman, and it didn't have that much of a marketing, and it wasn't released. They started to say, people asked, well, why, if that was such a powerful film for young adults and for women, why didn't that have a bigger earning? Because that's the metric.
Well,
why didn't that have a bigger earning? And people replied, it wasn't in every theater like Aladdin was. It was easier for me to go see Aladdin than go to see Booksmart. I would have liked to have seen it, but it wasn't in. So, the marketing of it, so you're bringing up some interesting things that relate to people controlling energies as well as the energies out there.
The other thing, and I guess the answer to this, and I think this is my frustration, is because you hear one thing, we gotta, we're gonna, we have to, we need to, and yet what we do is nothing it's not aligned in any way, shape, or form. It's almost so misaligned. It's the opposite. To me, it's like, this is so opposite. And so I sit down and, like we talk about, as a healer, you hear people's plight, and of course, what do you want to do? You want to help. Not because of, you have to, because you see someone struggling, you kind of want to say, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you try that? Not that you have the answer, but because you have compassion. And, we did another podcast earlier about Feeling is the Secret, by Neville Goddard. And what's interesting is that, in comparison to what we are talking about, what we're acting and what we're saying is completely out of alignment. And to take it one step further is when you hear outside, it can take you out of alignment.
Right.
Because I'm listening to this and I'm like, this makes no sense to me. It's almost so opposite that it bears to be looked at. It's not like, we have this, but we're doing, the other soft roles of women not being quite so strong, but this is so over the top that women are objectified so much, and it's actually watching it, and then of course add on the violence and all that other stuff. It's a really difficult thing to see, and yet it's trending. It's huge. And then and I keep thinking, this is on the tail of Kavanaugh, on the tail of Me Too, and at the same time Me Too was going on, you had 50 Shades of Grey. So I guess for me, there's nothing more for me to do. I hear these things, and I am a woman. I feel very powerful. I feel empowered, and I always feel like I want to share that. Because, if everyone's empowered, it can mean a really cool life. It could mean a really great place to be where everyone's empowered. No one's in charge of anyone. We're all just fully ourselves. It can be a great place to be. I look at this and I just think, like, this is like it's backwards. It's actually backwards.
I think a really important segment of what you're talking about is, when you mix salt and water. If you mix a lot of salt and water, it stays in water. If you try to mix more water, the saturation point that I'm getting at is huge and it's always been that way with, and I told you, even in my research with the Oscar project I'm doing, it's huge the way women are treated in movies, the roles that there are, the way they're, what's emphasized, what's focused upon, and how it is, and what the popularity becomes, and almost to keep it at that status quo, that's what gets the most marketing, that's what gets, and most males are the head of studios and stuff like that, and blah, blah, blah. And so it's almost, to the point of what you're saying, there almost has to reach a huge point of like, over the amount of women, who lead studios, and more, tons more women, and tons of, like, to saturate, before anything can happen, there needs to be tons. So I would ask the same thing. I mean, again, we've said in past podcasts, we have great things with empowering women that we've written.
So what I was going to say, to add to exactly where you are, you said we need women running studios and everything. That's the old guard. We talked about publishing. Our books are published, and we sold actually all over the world.
Right.
And we sold out in the local bookstores where we placed them. And the thing is that we didn't have to go through a big publisher anymore. So to get movies made now with, now Facebook's doing, I don't know enough about the technology, but there are ways of doing, you don't need to be the head of a huge studio. Actually, again, I just saw the documentary on Fred Rogers, and he's like, we had the lowest, our costs were the lowest. We just made, we had a simple studio, and it worked. And so it's just interesting, and now there's a lot of people just making their own movies. So why, as women, are we not embracing who we are? Stop looking out and pointing the finger at everyone, because then you point it at them, then they give you the Game of Thrones, and you run to it, and you scoff it up. And then they turn around and they say, oh, look at here, we got 50 Shades of Grey. Here's another woman that defies everything about being who she is, and just gives in and is tied up by this guy and lets him do whatever. Well, we're going to keep showing you that, and then we're going to turn around and say, well, we women, we deserve this. Okay, well then stop going to these horrible films and maybe start embracing better films. And it doesn't mean we have to get a woman in the top of some studio. We just need women that say, we can just do it. We do not need anything other than who we are. We've got amazing women that are producers, directors, writers, and everything else that you would need to put on some kind of a production. So that's the point that we're at, and it just feels like it really is time for us to stop whining. I'm going to say whining, and it is time for us to step in and really be who we are. Forget about the protests. You want to make it big? If you're an artist, start creating art that supports women. If you're a writer, write books that support women. If you're a producer, find the films that support women and do not objectify them. And then we want to see change, we will have change. I would guarantee it. If anyone wants to call me on it, I will guarantee it. But the way things are going now, we look, I'm going to say it, like idiots.
And also the way that it's conversed about and talked about what occurs. I mean, exactly everything that you're saying played itself out in what's trending and what's in the news about the Aladdin show versus Booksmart and what the performance was. And instead of highlighting the movie Booksmart itself and what it entailed and what it concerned, it became this big, huge conversation just about box office numbers and all these things, just to weigh it down as to the significance of this being a powerful, female-led movie that was empowering.
And you know what? Will Smith is a great actor, and this is nothing about taking down Will Smith or Aladdin. I didn't see them, but this is not about that. This is about us saying, look at Will Smith, look what he did. He created a great, again, I haven't seen it, he created a great role, he gave his all to this. It's time we do that for ourselves, to use him as competition, not to point the finger and say, wow, look what he did. It's time for us to step up. It is time for us to step up and be who we are and be the woman. We do not need to be a male, female, a hybrid. We need to be who we are completely and fully. And until we do that, I don't see any change.
So once again, I mean, this is all playing out, which is so, perfect timing in the Booksmart movie versus Aladdin. And what's the kind of controversy that's entailing is that the conversation surrounding Booksmart, who, has strong female characters in it, was directed by a woman and was marketed as being compared, and it's not really a correct comparison. There shouldn't be any comparison.
Right.
And so the limitations, and we just talked about this, and Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret. So the limitations that are being placed on it are putting doubt in the performance of the picture,
whether you're going to enjoy it or not.
Right, whether you're going to enjoy it, whether you're going to be able to see it, how it doesn't compare. I mean, why are all these things being created when, Aladdin is completely different in a huge studio, and it's a completely different beast versus this independent film, which is funny, because it could have been like a silent opener and just went like wildfire by word of mouth, but people are so sick and tired of the conversation that's been going on Twitter and everywhere about it, and how it didn't live up, which is funny, because where are the standards coming from? It didn't live up to what? It didn't live up to Aladdin. So what you're expressly talking about is so poignant to this, because it doesn't do anything to promote the female-directed movie, the females in the movie. It doesn't do anything for it at all. And what it does is it places limitations on it. And look how easy it is to place limitations on something.
Right. And then you don't want to go, and then these women that did this film, whether they acted, directed, produced it, then they're in doubt. Do I do this again? Did we make a mistake?
Right.
And how are we helping that? How are we, as women who are trying to be empowered, helping that?
Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts. Find New Threads music and their latest album on iTunes, Spotify, and newthreads.us.